Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Thursday, January 2nd. We are back for the first show of the new year. Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope you guys had a great and safe holiday. Now we are back. We got a 6-game slate on our hands starting a little later than the normal. It is a 4:30 Pacific time start, 7:30 East Coast time, and let's dig in. I am your host, Tyler Wiemann, at FlatTyler83 on Twitter and your DFS sites. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all one low price. Now let's jump in, position by position, as usual. And starting by point guard on FanDuel, we got Chris Dunn, 5K, 29% owned. This is wild. There's not much ceiling. He's going chalk. And, I mean, he's consistent 5X, but there's very little chance of 6X or plus, and I can't follow chalk that's like that. Tyler Hero, 8,200, 21% owned. Guy's been playing very well this year. I'm fine having some Hero. I'm not going to go super hard on him myself. I think there's a lot of different ways to go this slate, and I think ownership will likely change pretty drastically throughout the day if any more value opens up. Right now, it does appear that, the value on the slate is pretty weak, and so as that changes, I think ownership could change dramatically. But in this spot, I mean, it's not a terrible spot. It is a pace-up spot. The Pacers slightly below average versus point guard. Hero's been playing well. I'm definitely going to have some maybe around 20-ish%, maybe slightly lower. But he's not, my favorite play of the slate. Drew Holiday, 5,700, 17% owned. Personally, I'm not really getting here. I would go to his guard counterpoint in Derek White if I was to play a Boston Celtic guard, but Drew's price is low. We know he has a ceiling if he gets it going. The problem is just his minutes have been limited pretty much all season long, and most Boston games are blowouts, so they don't even get full run as it is. Now, Timberwolves could stay into the game a little bit more, but I just don't overall love the spot. Dennis Schroeder, 5,400. Look, he's getting really cheap, but he's just been running cardio for the Warriors. I personally need to see him turn it around with the Warriors before I jump in. I think, unless his price drops even further, but at this point, he's playing, solid minutes, low 30s, high 20s, but he's at 0.59 fantasy points per minute. That's just not going to get it done. We know there is more ceiling, but I just don't really see it right now with this team, and it's not a great spot, so I have a very hard time going there. I'll let other people do it, and I'll go elsewhere. Elsewhere. Tyrese Maxey, 8,600. Dude has been playing well this season. We're seeing 60s. We're seeing 50s. He's playing big-time minutes. Played 42 minutes last night. I like the spot. Embiid does likely play as well as Paul George. So with that, his ceiling or his median is a little lower, but he's in a good spot versus the Warriors. I'm going to still have a little bit of him. James Harden, 8,700. Look, I've been on him the last couple days, and it's just failed, but I'm not going to get shaken off it. It is one of the spots I like the most. One of the plays I like that is low ownership. The fact is he can go for 60 at 8,700. And with that, I'm going to take some chances if people aren't going there. I know it's not a great spot, but the game theory part of DFS does play a role into this, and there is big time ceiling here. And I got to take a few chances when he's only, low double digits or maybe high single digits is what he comes at. Case and Wallace, 4,800. This is a case of there not being much chalk right now. So that is why he is popping up for me a little bit. I'm fine having a little when it ends up with my lineups, if more chalk doesn't come out, I'm going to have some. If chalk comes out, more value comes out, then he is probably going to be falling on my player pool. I see a path to him doing okay today, but I think he's a little overpriced for what he's doing and what his ceiling is. So as more value comes out throughout the day, if we get more injury news, then I may not be on him quite as much as I am right now. But Cason Wallace right now is interesting value play. Derek White, 7,100. Look, because of how much value there is right now and the lack of really good value, my lineups right now are more balanced, and thus guys like Derek White are popping up. Now, Timberwolves haven't been great versus shooting guard. We also know Derek White has a huge ceiling. My issue is that he needs to have a little more of a ceiling game to even hit 6x. I am fine having some of him. If he gets into the 40s, I'm fine with having him, but I think most likely outcome is mid to high 30s, and just he's not truly going to get it done for your lineups. But if this game plays a little faster, there's a little more scoring because the Timberwolves are hitting their shots, then there is a path for Derek White to success. Anthony Simons, 7K. Another guy with a big ceiling. The big news here is no Jeremy Grant. So with no Grant, Simons does get a little bit of an uptick in his fantasy point per minute, but not huge. The other thing is the Lakers just haven't been good versus guards, so I don't mind taking Simons versus the Lakers as a guard. I do have to mention that he really hasn't been very good versus them for a couple years now, so it is a little bit scary. Getting over to point guard on DraftKings. High-owned D'Angelo Russell, 5,200. I would have a ton of them at this point. He went for 42, played 26 minutes. There's no Ben Simmons, no Schroeder, obviously. And I would expect him to play 28 to 30, 32 minutes today. And at 5,200, where he is the star of the show, it becomes a little interesting. I was playing around with stuff a little bit today, looking at what his fantasy points per minute were without LeBron and AD on the court. And it was at like 1.3 something. So that's essentially the situation he's in now. He has no big usage guys taking away from him on this Nets lineup. So while I 100% do not think he's a 1.3 fantasy per minute guy, I think he could be, a 1.05, 1.07, something like that with the Nets. It is a tough spot versus the Bucks, but not overly tough. I'm going to get some, and I think he's underpriced for a starting role there. Drew, 4,900 is much more interesting than 5,700 on FanDuel. I would have some, not super hard. Austin Reeves been absolutely crushing. 7,200, his price is getting up there a little bit, but this role and him playing 43 minutes a game is wild, and it's versus the Trailblazers that aren't that good. I'm fine taking some shots here, but I do worry his price is getting a little up there for himself when he's really the third option on that team. Shooting guard on FanDuel, we got Paul George, 7,300. Chris Dunn, 5K. Chris Middleton, 6,400. Paul George, 7,300. He did well last night, but it is a back-to-back. We'll see if he is going to play the back-to-back. He did play a back-to-back a little bit ago. His minutes were lower, but it was a blowout. So I would expect him to play. But we got to wait to truly see the injury news on this one here. But my only worry here is with Embiid on the court. He drops to like he's at like 9.95 or 9.7 fantasy points per minute versus his 1.1 that he's been over the last 20. So with Embiid there, with Maxey there, he's definitely taken a cut to his output. Now that ceiling is still there. He's still a solid player and can get it done with those guys on the court. It's just the median comes down a lot. So while he's chalky, it's a little harder for me to get there at 7,300 than if he was, low owned. Chris Dunn, we covered him. Chris Middleton, 6,400. Only issue is the minutes. I do want to point out, though, he played 31 the other night. If he plays over 30 at 6,400, he is very interesting. If he goes back down to his 2,800, I can't do it with a healthy Giannis and Lillard. But if he's going to start playing over 30, then he starts to look interesting. That's the decision you have to make. Is that minutes limit up or not? I haven't seen anything news-wise to say that he's, going to start playing over 30. Could have just been a one-game thing that, things happen, so he played a little bit more. However, I would expect he comes back down more like 28, 29. Toumani Camara, with no Jeremy Grant, I expect his minutes to be 33, 34. We've seen with Jeremy Grant there that he can do it and get done around 30, give us 6X. He's in a good spot versus the Lakers here and gets a little bit of an uptick from a fantasy points per minute standpoint without Grant. So more minutes, a little more efficient while playing those minutes makes me want to get to a little bit of Kamara when there's very little value out there, and 5,300 right now is kind of considered value. Case and Wallace we covered. Duncan Robinson, 4,300. This is another value spot that I am interested in. It is very shaky. He is either going to be a 30 burger or he's going to be a bust pretty much. When he plays well, he gets a couple extra minutes. The shot's going in. They keep him out there. When he doesn't play well, he gets pulled quick. The shot's not going in, and he gives you very, very little. But on a slate like this, where we don't have much value, this is a way to still get some ceiling and get some higher price, safer, higher ceiling guys as well in your lineup. So I'm a little interested in Robinson. He's in a good spot versus the Pacers. The game could be high scoring. It's an up-paced spot, and if that three's falling and he starts playing 26, 28 minutes, he could crush. But, low floor. But, hey, we're here for the ceiling. We're playing GPPs here. Derek White, we covered. Norm Powell, 7,200. Guy has been playing very well. Harden is questionable right now, so we do need to watch that Harden news. If Harden is out, all the usage flows to Powell. But this team will look real, real ugly and, could just be blowout central. So I want to mention that. But, look, I like the spot as far as his pricing and what his ceiling is. However, Thunder are just very good defensively, and they've been first versus the small forward. So it is not an easy spot. There's a reason why he's going low owned, but I'm willing to take some chances there. It's kind of the moral of this slate is you got to take some chances here. Shooting guard, Russell, George, Dort, covered them all. Dort, 4,200. It's just the lack of value that he's popping up a little bit. I don't love the spot, but fine taking a little bit. If that three's falling, maybe he gets going. Small forward on FanDuel. We got LeBron James. We got Paul George, and we got Denny. All right. LBJ, 9,600, 38% owned. Versus the Trailblazers. I'm fine if you want to go there. He has a history of doing decently versus them. It's 40-year-old LeBron James. We get a 40-point score or mid-50s, and that's pretty much what happens with him. And personally, I would rather go up to AD in this spot. I think he's popping because there's not much value. And so not the top tier guys are getting high owned. It's the higher end medium price guys, which that's kind of LeBron is standpoint, where I would personally just rather pay up for Harden than go to LeBron. But to each their own here. I'm fine getting some LeBron. I'm going to get some, but I do think 38% is high owned. Paul George, we covered. Denny, 6,300. His price is up there a bit, but the ceiling is there to support the price. It's a decent matchup versus Portland or versus the Lakers. He's likely to play power forward get 32, 34 minutes. His rates don't change dramatically, but he plays more minutes, and that's the big thing here. I'm interested in him. I'm going to have a decent amount, but it's just too hard to pass up. I mean, you got a guy that can consistently hit mid-40s going at 6,300, and while it's not, the best spot in the world, best matchup in the world, I think it's an interesting one, and he can absolutely get some steals and blocks to make this a very viable play. Pivot time, Caleb Martin, 4,800. It's another spot where, it's not a ton of value, and he's one of the guys that really could pop. Since he's joined the starting lineup again, 33 and a 36 over the last 4 games, but that comes also with a 21 and a 17. There is a ceiling, but also a very low floor. However, at 4,800, if he scores 25, it's not killing you. It's just not helping you win a GPP. So 17 or a 21 would kill you, but, I'm willing to take some chances in a game which the 76ers could win, and he has been playing big-time minutes, 39, 38, 36, and 38. So he gets 36, 38 minutes, and it's very hard for him totally to fall flat on his face. I'm interested. He has been very, he hasn't been great in the starting lineup with all the studs. He's only at like 0.65 fantasy point per minute on the season and with all those guys. So, it's a hard trigger to pull. And this is another spot where if more value comes up, I'm probably going to come off it a little bit. Andrew Wiggins, 6K versus the 76ers, who are slightly below average here versus small forward. Wiggins is playing like himself a little bit more, and we can see those 40s out of him, so I'm fine taking some shots on him in this spot. Don't love the play, but hey, that's kind of how this slate is today. Small forward on DK. Denny is just too cheap. Paul George, 7K, worth taking some shots there. Dort, we covered a little bit as well. Getting over to power forward on FanDuel. LeBron, 9,600. Denny. Trace Jackson Davis, 5,900. Guy's been going off. Entered the starting lineup again and has 5 of 6 perfect lineups. He's getting minutes, more importantly. We have him at 27 over the last week. He's played 27.5. If he gets that type of minutes, he is too low priced. But we know this Warriors rotation, and they've spread around all season long. There is also a little worry that they may go to Looney in the starting lineup because Embiid is on the other side. We got to wait for that information, but if Looney is starting, I'm going to be playing some of him. He's too cheap if he continues to play this much. Now, there is some worry that he gets into foul trouble because it's versus Embiid, but I'm willing to take that chance. I think TJD is in a decent spot. Caleb, Wiggins, we talked about. Julius Randle, 7,400. Here's another pivot that I think is an interesting one. If the Timberwolves are able to stay in this game, I think it's likely due to Julius Randle. It is the best matchup on paper, is power forward versus Celtics, and we've seen Randle kind of start getting it going. We're seeing him get some more 40s, some more high 30s scores, and we know that ceiling is there when he really gets it rolling. So I'm interested in some Julius Randle to go for Boston. If I'm playing Julius, I'm probably going to be running it back with a Celtic. I think that if Timberwolves keep it in there as a close game, Randle probably is getting there, and then it also means one of the Celtics does. But I mean, it's the Celtics. They have 5 really good players in their starting lineup and 6 good DFS players. Any of them could pop off. So that's the issue, but I do expect one Boston guy to come with Randle if Randle gets it done. Power forward on DK, Denny, Naz Reid, and LeBron. Naz Reid, 4,500. Look, we are on him on New Year's Eve. The thing here is that it's just not much value. So he's popping because he can go off. It's not a spot I like to follow or chalky if he's not starting and we don't know he's going to get a ton of minutes. Most likely, he's low 20s minute-wise and he doesn't get it done. LeBron James, covered. Rui. Rui actually we should have covered, but we have not. I'm pretty sure I liked him. I meant to like him. I did. So he's 5,600 on FanDuel, 52 on Draftkings. It's another spot where not a ton of chalk, but we have a good spot here. He's playing solid minutes, playing 32.3 the last week, playing 35.5 the last month, and he has a ceiling at 5,600, so I'm willing to take some chances on this Laker team. It's also the last game of the night. I like having a little bit of the late night hammer in my lineups, which, isn't always the smartest thing, but I like my lineups to go up instead of go down at the end of the night. So I do try to get a little bit more. The other thing with favoring some of the late game is it makes you more available for late news when it drops or if it drops, because you can then pivot and late swap some lineups to get more of that value that opens up later, say after a slate lock. Now, tonight there may not be a ton of news after late slate lock because we have 4 of the 6 games at 5 or at 4:30, so only 2 late games. So late news might be a little bit hard to come by tonight, but Rui is definitely an interest. And getting over to the center spot, we got Nick Claxton, 5,700. I'm going to get a decent amount of Claxton. That is the best spot to go against the Bucks. He's averaging 31 minutes a game over the last week. I think those minutes are trending up here finally, and we got a Nets team that's not very healthy. I think most likely he's playing 30 to 32 minutes, and 30 points is definitely a very possible outcome, as that's where he's really kind of lived all season long. The issue is that we just haven't seen too many of his ceiling games that we had before. However, one of those did come against Milwaukee earlier this season, where he went 33 minutes, played 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks, 3 steals, 4 assists. He can definitely have that type of game against the Bucks. So interested in him, interested in TJD. Bam Adebayo at 8,400 is fine. It's just a good spot versus the Pacers. Up tempo, up pace spot. So I'm fine taking some Bam at 8,400 when we know he has a huge ceiling. Pivot wise, I like Hartenstein, 7,600. He's lived in the 40s. The only issue here is that it's not likely he's going to ever go for 50s, 60s. He's a rebound guy. He's not really a points guy. Doesn't add a ton of blocks. And, we really need him to score 20 real points to have a chance at like a 50 or 60. And he just doesn't get that high point-wise. Big time rebounder. I like him, but just limited ceiling at his price. AD, 11.5K. I mean, the ability for him to go for 70 plus on a slate like this would be huge. The issue is just hard to get the value to get to him. But if more value opens up, I absolutely love this spot for AD, and I would be playing a ton of him if there's more value. Now, center on DK, Naz Reid, DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre at 6,300 is interesting to me. He did well earlier this season against the Lakers. He's done well versus them before. Fine taking some shots on Ayton here. TJD is obviously in play, especially at 4,700 on DraftKings. That's just way too cheap. And 10.7 on AD on DK is too cheap as well. Now, that'll do it for us today, guys. Hope you guys have a good one. Good luck. Let's win some money. And please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and this show. Have a good one, guys. Peace. Happy New Year.